Hello everyone, it's Mel, and welcome back to more Baldur's Gate, hopefully with 100% less, audio issues. So, I'm curious about something, actually. Can I actually leave this map?
You want it? You got it.
Or am I just locked now? Oh no, I can... Okay, yeah, no, I can go places, which is good. I am not locked in here. Also, Emma needs so much XP still. And she still has one more level before she can actually get... Oh, it hurts. It hurts so bad. Oh, you can learn that. You're gonna learn that. What one are you? What are you? You can learn to spell magic. None of you can learn vocalize. Fair enough. Oh, that's interesting. Sequencer. That might very much be something for Mira to play with. Write that. Write that. Okay. Let's get started then. But I can at least travel if I need to, which is good. You know, whatever was dropped out of my inventory was probably dropped in Baldur's Gate. Ugh. Okay, looks like it was a helmet. Do I want to go back in? I wasn't wearing it. I wasn't wearing it.
Hold, travelers! Before you will be allowed entrance, you must donate a tome of great value to our libraries.
We have the book you require. You have met the requirements to gain entry to our most holy library. It is fine to see the child of Gorion once again within these hallowed grounds. Please have your less civilized friends refrain from causing trouble. We are very strict with the letter of the law, as you well know, Rel. Well, okay then. Let's, I guess, go have a chit-chat with people, see what's going on. If I can find people. Priest.
These walls contain the world's knowledge.
I am pleased to see that you have taken time to pay tribute to wise Ogma. And what do you have to offer at this temple? Identifying services is what you have to offer. Identify, please. Identify, please. Identify, please. And I think that's everything, actually. I can identify. Fair enough.
What do you need?
Rel, I didn't think you were ever coming back. What's it like out there? It's big. I don't know how else to put it. I've lived my entire life within these walls, and in the past wall I've seen 50 times as much as these walls could ever hold. It's weird though, all that space and barely a book in it. I never realized how special Candlekeep really is. Yeah, people come from all over to see the books here. All sorts of folks, too. Bards, nobles, priests, mages. Volo's even been here. And Elminster, too, remember. A couple of just plain old merchants even wandered in the other day. Said they were with the Iron Throne and they were here to do some business. They're still around, last I heard. Yeah. We need to have a little chit-chat with them. They're probably in the Central Library. Ah, yeah, the tutorial dudes aren't here. Winthrop!
You got it.
My hotel's as clean as an elven arse.
Aye, now there's the rapscallion. Set on the little wisp now and make every bolt count. You'll never take me alive. Whoa, calm down, kiddo. That big old world has tied your britches in a knot, hasn't she? It's just good old Winthrop trying to pull your leg again. I guess having to see Gorion die like that has its effect on a kid, huh? I'll keep my jokes to myself next time, I guess. Oh, I'm sorry.
You want it? You got it.
Like, I actually feel kind of bad about that one. It's weird not having all, like, the priest dudes here, honestly. It feels weird. Because I remember full well what it was like before. Now there's a face I never thought I'd see again in a million years. When we heard about Gorion's passing, Fuller and I went out to gather his body, but you were nowhere to be seen. I don't know what you two came across that night, but Gorion died a noble death, saving you from it. Thank you for taking care of his remains. I didn't have the means. Someday we'll sit down over a mug of ale and I'll tell you about it. I look forward to it. Why does it feel like there were more guards than there used to be?
Salutations. I am Catterley, a visitor of Candlekeep, like yourselves.
I am... Pardon if I seem out of sorts, but this journey has been long and treacherous, and my labors age me so. May I inquire as to your name? I am certain I have seen your face before, but I cannot fully place it. Well, it's Rel, if it's any business of yours. I see. Well, as it turns out, I have met you previously. Your manner turned out far different than I would have guessed, however. I was acquainted with your foster father, as were many others. I visited him a number of times while you grew up. His death has been mourned across the coast, and you would do well to represent his spirit in a better fashion. Treating people with respect would be a good start. And how are you acquainted with Gorion? Oh, he was a respected sage before I was old enough to lift the tome of universal harmony, let alone understand a word. He knew a great deal about this world, and much of the next as well. I heard rumors of his escapades with those who harp as well, but he never spoke of such things to me. I get the feeling he devoted most of his attentions to raising you, and gave up whatever ribald life he lived in his youth. He would not have had it any other way, though. You seem to have fared well enough for it. As well as can be expected, though I've learned much about myself that perhaps was better left unknown. Would that I had a gold coin for every person I've heard say such a thing. I am sure your troubles vary greatly from my own experience, but we all have trials we must overcome. We all have a side that should not see the light of day too often. What matters now is how much strength you wish to let it have. Bah. Such words are better saved for classes and meditations, not for reunions. I will take my leave, though perhaps I shall see you again before I am to go. The tomes of Candlekeep are very nearly endless, and I am sure to be here for a 10-day at least. There are some within the central keep who wish to speak with you, so it will be wise for you to visit there sometime. Farewell, my friend. Lydia!
Hello there.
Oh, why hello, have you seen my book? No, wait, you found that already, didn't you? Oh, I just don't know anymore. You haven't been around lately, have you? No, I haven't been back since Gorion died. Gorion? Why, yes, of course. I'm sorry, I've made a bore of myself again. Gorion was a good and wise sage, and he obviously raised you with better manners than I would have been able to. Well, I guess we're, inward bound.
You must gather your
Party before venturing forth. You know, I expected there to be more books.
You want it? You've got it.
Normal book. Okay.
Something on your mind?
Rel, my child, look at you. Your face has gained some new lines since the days I tutored you. You speak true, but it's not your fault. You prepared me as well as you could for what lay beyond these walls. I just pray I am prepared for what I shall find within them now that I've returned. Why? What is wrong here? Shall I tell the Watchers? Yeah, call them, but tell me if you've seen anything strange about the library today. Strange? Why, yes, that's just the word I would have used for that Corvaris fellow. He was right here beside me, taking Alondo's prophecies from their place on the shelf and reading them. I could hear his voice, recognize the seer's words upon his quiet breath, but when I turned to steal a glance at him from the corner of my eye, it was the strangest thing. His eyes were closed and he was reciting page after page, as if from memory. He heard your footsteps, it seems, and wandered off. I was just returning the prophecies to their rightful place here. It might be wise to take a look. If this Corvaris is dangerous, though, I'm afraid I'm too old and bookish to be more than a hindrance. Forgive me, but I must leave you now. Oh dear. Oh dearie, dearie, dear. I mean, there's still time for lore. Calimsham is older than either of the other empires of the Sands, first settled over 7,000 years ago by the Gen, a humanoid race from the elemental plane of air. These Gen were known to be very magical, and during the course of their rule they developed many new spells previously not available on the plane of air. The Gen prospered for over 1,000 years in Calimsham, but their reign was ended by an invasion of creatures and minions from the plane of fire. Some say this is where the bitter hatred between Jinn and Ifrit started, though others contend that this was just a result of the hatred that was already there. Whatever the cause, the battle was long and bloody and took over 100 years to complete. The Gen finally routed the attackers, but were greatly weakened in the attempt. They slowly declined, and the last mention of the Gen is just under 6,000 years old. For the next 4,000 years, Calimsham was dominated by nomadic tribes of humans, tribes from various places. Chult, the Shar, the Shining Plains, Chondath, even Am and Cormyr took turns dominating, only to be conquered by the next nearly identical tribe. Slowly, the nomadic nature of Calimsham began to change. As explorers and traders from Am, Waterdeep, and Cormyr discovered the wonders of the area, some tribes began to settle down and develop new means of support, like fishing, farming, or trading. These communities began to band together for mutual protection, and soon a civilization was born. It was only 1,300 years ago that the Shum Empire, now called Iltkazar, came into being. The Shuns were a great and glorious empire, and their excesses were the foundation of Kalashite snobbery today. They grew wise and powerful in the ways of magic, and ships and caravans bearing the Shun flag traveled across the realms. Shun himself, a particularly powerful mage, created a book of great power during the time called the Tome of the Unicorn. The exact location of the tome has been lost in time, but since the book is 2 inches by 3 inches and made of pure metal, it's likely to still be around. Somewhere. 900 years ago, the Shun Empire abruptly vanished. A great magical upheaval was suspected at first, but learned mages from other lands dispute the claim. A force that great, they say, would have disturbed magical powers and beings throughout the realms. And that didn't happen. Sages who have studied the Shun at great length have reached no definite conclusions, but the most popular theories today center around a plague or disease that decimated the population. Today, the Shun impact on Kalimshan is still great. The grandeur of that empire is responsible, more than anything else, for the strong national character of Kalimshan today. The ruins of the Shun's greatest city, Monretivi Teshmir, can still be found in the wilderness to the west of the edge of the Forest of Mir. See below for more on name. Since the fall of Shum, no other force or people has risen to solely dominate the land. There are half a dozen or so major cities, each of which exerts its power over its own area. About 170 years ago, a man in Kalimsport amassed a large army and declared himself Pasha over the land. Before that army could march, however, the representatives of each major city met and agreed to recognize the Pasha's authority in limited areas, and to pay a small tribute to him, enough to pay for the works the Pasha was expected to do.
Boring.
The oldest son of each Pasha inherits the title. If there is no son, the mayors of each large city select a new one. The current Pasha, Rashid Jenispul, has ruled for over 18 years and is the grandson of a Pasha elected by the mayors of Kalimshan 44 years ago. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. That was funny. Oh boy. Cormyr dates its years from the founding of House Oberskjur 1342 years ago, the first of the noble houses in the line of its kings. For the bulk of this time, Cormyr was little more than a single city, Suzail, and a few fortified outposts. At times, the monarch was forced by rebellion and intrigue to rule from those outposts instead of from the throne. King Azun is the fourth of his name and the 71st of his line. The land has officially been at peace for many years, since Rygard overthrew the last of the border raiders. However, Cormyr armies have taken part in many actions in nearby regions, recently mustering its forces to face Gondogal, the rebel of Arabel, to occupy Tilverton on the marches of the Dalelands, and to lead a crusade against the great Tejan horde invading from the east. One wit has noted, yes, the land is at peace, but the army has to keep busy. In addition to pursuing major actions, Cormyrian patrols often skirmish with bandits on the roads in the north and west, and are at present battling orcs and other creatures north and west of Cormyr in Tilver's Gap and Shadow Gap. Both these areas are threatened by raiders who will menace Cormyr itself if they ever overrun Tilverton. Cormyr has built a fortress, Castle Crag, to defend the kingdom from attacks from that quarter, and maintains the High Horn to protect against attacks from the west.
These walls contain the world's knowledge.
Well, dip me in broth and call me stewed, if it isn't little Rel. Why, I haven't seen you for nearly, quite some time anyway. Hello, Theoden. How have you been? I still remember you running about the keep with your little swaddling coats, pestering the elders and spooking the cows. Ain't that right, Jessup? Surely was. Yes, of course, you never did stay in those rags of yours long. Yes, I remember. How have you been? You'd be naked as a jaybird the moment someone turned their back on you. I remember the day that fellow Blackstaff came floating in, and there you are, tearing around the outer keep with Gorion hot on your trail. Took the cloak right off his back, you did, and made yourself just the cutest little... Yes, I remember. Could we drop it, please? How have you been? Wait, I remember it all now. There was Kelvin Blackstaff trying his hardest to look important while you ran through the stables with his cape tied around your waist. Such a lark, eh, Jessup? I thought I'd catch my death from laughing, I did. You and me both. Gorion was shaking like a leaf, he was so mad. As fun as this has been, I should get going. Nobody was sure what to do, and then Kelvin mutters some words and catches you right by the scruff of the neck with some sort of spectral hand. He hauls you out and drops you right in front of him, grabbing his filthy cape in the process. Everyone was scared they were, weren't they, Jessup? Sure enough, scared witless. And then old Kelvin burst out in the biggest laugh you ever heard. Everyone in the keep was laughing like mad except you, Rel. You just stood there naked as the day you were born and wondering what all the fuss was about. I tell you, those were the days. I think I'll be going now. Oh, certainly, little one. Stop by any old time, though. I have some paintings of you as a youngster. I'm sure your little friends would love to see. Remember the one of Rel on the bearskin rug, Jessup? Surely do. In the buff as usual. Cute as a bug you were. Go play with your friends now. Go on. So, kind of funny story, actually. Okay, looks like we'll have reading to do, and then stairs. But I'm actually going to ask you all to hold on for a moment because I have to check some stuff for school. Okay, literally over 24 hours later. Because, surprising precisely nobody, I did not get back to this yesterday. Well, I don't say surprising precisely nobody, but anyone who knows what I've been dealing with school, yeah. You're empty. You're, Upon taking the Twisted Tower and removing the Drowish yoke from the people, the Dalesmen had fully established the Dale of Shadowdale, with its seat of power in the tower itself. Its first lord was a water wizard who had aided in the final attack, Ashaba, who was great in age when he ascended, and ruled peacefully for 40 years thereafter. It is said that Ashaba realized he was dying and turned himself to water, merging with the river. Since that time, the river, the ford, and the Twisted Tower all bear his name. Before passing on, Ashaba chose one of his lieutenants as the new Lord of Shadowdale. Presented to the people of the Dale, he was made the new Lord by acclamation. In an additional honor, the pendant worn by Ashaba was thereafter recognized as a symbol of the lordship in the Dale lands, and was possessed by each one of the successive lords following. Okay, come on, around, please. Thank you. The Halflings of Lyran claim that it is the original homeland of the Halflings in the realms. Although other Halflings may disagree with this, it is true that Lyran was settled hundreds, perhaps thousands of years ago. Lyran's history is one of conquerors and subjugation. Throughout the centuries, the Halflings have been conquered by the barbarians who used to inhabit Dambrath, by the kingdom of Estegund, and even once by the monsters of Baldur. In every case, the invaders were eventually defeated because they had made the mistake of underestimating the Halflings due to their small stature. A good bit of mischief, mayhem, and general troublemaking by the Halflings also helped end the occupations. Currently, Lyran is enjoying unprecedented prosperity. The Halflings are currently taking advantage of their relationship with the nation of Durpar, their biggest customer and greatest competitor. Though, through these close ties with Durpar, Lyran has protected itself against another Dambrai invasion. The rulers of Dambrath must know that if they begin to expand to the east, they will arouse the ire of Durpar as well as Var and Estegund. The threat of a trade embargo and or military consequences have kept this aggressive nation away from the Lyraners. So basically, gunboat... Well, not really... Bigger army diplomacy. Estegund history follows a different path than those of Durpar and Var. The Gunders were conquered, and I need to mute my phone. There we go. The Gunders were conquered in 551 DR by Reinhard I, war chief of the Archaeans, of Dambrath. Estigund regained its independence when Reinhard was slain by the Halrowan archmage Mycontil, though the country soon degenerated into a group of small independent city-states. Skirmishes with Var and between the city-states continued for several centuries until a king once again united the country. King Borneal was a skilled ruler, and under him Estigund began to prosper. His descendants did not share his wisdom, and in 1053 DR, King Selkarin more than illustrated this. He had failed to conquer Durpar, and Baldur resisted his challenges. An avowed misogynist, Selkarin turned his attentions to the matriarchy of Dambrath. He led a large fleet to attack Dambrath, taking extreme losses, including his own life. Was that the phone ringing? I swear, 5 minutes peace. The new ruler faced the country with most of its fighting men gone and an unforeseen problem: famine. The famine was caused by a blight that wiped out nearly all the year's crops in Estigund. This made him eager for a deal posed by the Durparian merchant Jeradim, and in a legendary trade, the entire country of Estigund was sold. Contrary to popular rumor, Selterir did not trade away the country for 24 pearls. In actuality, he received diamonds worth almost 1,000,000 gold pieces. The sudden wealth gave him an instant seat on the Council of Merchants, so he retained a measure of rule in addition to his fortune. Chaka Selterir is still the richest Chaka in Estigund to this day. In the years that follow, the Gunders began rebuilding their lives under their new circumstance, and now they compete on equal footing with the merchants of Durpar and Var.
If we are doomed to fail, could we at least do it faster?
Zan, there's lore. But just for you, I'll pause. Durpar and Var the Golden share a common history. Over 3,000 years ago, the countries were both subject to the great kingdom of Rauren. When Rauren fell in minus 2488 DR, the countries of Durpar and Var barely survived the destruction. Rioting, mass destruction, and hatred of nobility were rampant, and the two countries descended into barbarism over 2 millennia. Finally, after most of the barbarian tribes were wiped out by the great empire of Mohorand, a leader emerged. Saitama, a mere traitor, experienced a divine revelation and formulated a new philosophy. All things in the world were connected, were part of a single creation spirit, and all of the gods of the realms were merely parts of the same entity. Soon all the Shining Lands embraced the teachings of Saitama, and the seeds of civilization were laid in what became known as the Lands of the One. Since the Lands of the One had many natural resources, trade with Mohorand and Luiran became a way of life. Merchants were honored above all. In time, the Maharaja of Durpar and Raja of Var were replaced by a council of merchants. During this time, the land suffered occasional raiding attacks from the horsewomen of Dambrath, and had many skirmishes with the neighboring countries of Estigund and Ulgarth. In 1023 DR, after an armed peace had been worked out with Ulgarth, the Council of Merchants decided that something needed to be done about the raiders from Estigund who were hurting trade with other countries. War was an inconvenience, but interrupting trade was life-threatening. Jeradim, the richest merchant in the lands, was given power to negotiate a settlement. During these negotiations he proved, at least in the eyes of the Durparians, that he was indeed a master trader. Indeed the master trader he seemed. Estigund had just tried a foolish invasion of Dambrath. The vengeful female leaders of that land wiped out nearly every able-bodied fighting man they sent. The monsters of Eldorn were causing problems, and Estigund was going through a famine. It was here that Jeradim showed his fine merchant's instincts. He could not pass up such an advantage, and began bargaining the most outrageous trade of all time. He met with the leaders of Estigund, a fearful king and his nobles, and explained the advantages of Durparian life and the philosophy of the Adama, the oneness of all things. He bargained for days until finally the king made the trade. He purchased the whole of Estigund for the countries of Durpar and Var at the price of 24 gems. He also promised protection and help for their integration into the Durparian way of life. Thus were formed the Shining Lands. Within 100 years, the three countries shared a common way of life, and with the added strength and resources of Estigund, Durparian merchants increased their trading range. They roamed as far as Karatur, as far north as the Sea of Fallen Stars, That's a really pretty name. And west to Dambreth and Halrua. In the present time, with the newly discovered lands of Maztica and Zakara beckoning, the future looks bright. The nation of Dambreth was formed out of a barbarian kingdom almost half a millennium ago, by a powerful alliance of the priestesses of Loviatar and the drow from the city of Telendet. In 211 DR, fleeing from the destruction of the homeland by the then great kingdoms of Uther and Mulhorand, 4 tribes of barbarians entered Dambreth. They found a coast where the dolphins danced in the plains where the grass was long. They roamed from the borders of the walls of Halrua as far east as the current borders of Estigund. They soon became known as the Archaean, or People of the Wind. In 545 DR, a great war chief, Reinhar, arose to lead the tribes. The halflings of Luiren were quickly enslaved, and several of the coastal cities of Durpar were captured or razed. Estigund fell to his rule, and eventually Reinhar turned his attention to Halrua. An army of 40,000 horsemen and a fleet of 50 ships, mounted a coordinated attack, and even though Reinhar was able to get beyond the walls of Halrua and occupy the cities of Mithil, Galdel, and Zalsu, their magics proved to be more than a match for the invaders. Reinhar was finally defeated in a great battle at Sulazir by the Archmage Mycontil and his troop of wizards. Reinhar's son, Reinhard II, took command of the army and set out on a 2-month overland retreat. He arrived home with 1,000 surviving fighting men and no shaman. Reinhard II proved to be as good a ruler in defeat as his father was in war. He consolidated his forces and pulled home almost all of his troops, as he knew that the defeat made them tempting prey for raiders and encroaching monsters. This action allowed for the safe development of his people. By the time the 9th Reinhard was king in 802 DR, the Archaeans were fat and lazy. Reinhard IX, or Reinhard the Foolish as he is more commonly known, insisted on expanding his nation to gain more gold to finance his military campaigns. He ordered the mining of many rich lodes of silver and electrum in the Nullwatch Mountains. But before his plans of expansion could begin, the miners encountered the drow of Telindir. The drow were outraged and began a steady series of raids and attacks on the Archaean strongholds. Whole villages were destroyed overnight, and no trace of the invaders could be found. Reinhard IX committed the foolhardy action of attacking the drow in retaliation. I remember this one. We've read this one. Because I remember they ended up with the matriarchal society because the drow basically took over. I've read the history of Cormyr. I read Gondagal. Halrua was settled... Let's pause that, thank you. Halrua was settled centuries ago by wizards fleeing the Faerûn in what was to become the Anorak Desert. The first wizards came in unique flying ships invented by the Netherese and found a beautiful and rich country settled only by shepherds and large herds of aurochs and wild roth. It was here that the wizards decided to make a stand should the Faerûn follow. The Faerûn never did, but Halrua has had to defend itself from attacks by all of its neighbors since then. Over the centuries, Dambreth has attacked and raided Halrua's ports and borders multiple times. Once, led by a magic-resistant barbarian, the Dambrai occupied all of the country south of the Lake Halrua. They were defeated in battle by the great archmage, Mycontil, who slew their barbarian leader. 40,000 Dambrai attacked and were stopped by 500 Halruans. More than 200 Halruan wizards, including Mycontil, died in the battle. The last attack upon Halrua was less than 100 years ago, through the Telath Pass by the power-hungry king of La Pielia. He had allied with bandits from the Waste, though this time the Halruans were able to field a larger force, including fighting men, as well as wizards in their skyships. The attackers were easily routed. Harua also suffered through a civil war about 5 centuries ago, when a number of mages advocated beginning new experiments in magic, ones which even the Netherese didn't approve of. The renegades were driven from the region and went to found the land of Thay, or so it is said in Harua. Since then, Harua has been at peace. They have had no declared wars, though it still suffers raids from Dambrai pirates, bandits of the waste, savages from the Mare jungles, and any other pirate, raider, or hungry wizard who thinks that magic and wealth grow on trees in Harua. The constant raiding has made the Hauruans very defensive, warlike, and traditional. People say that since wizards have always led them, wizards always will. Empty. Hello. A letter. That looks like more lore. During the days of the Avatars, the Lord of Murder will spawn a score of mortal progeny. These offspring will be aligned good and evil, but chaos will flow through them all. When the beast's bastard children come of age, they will bring havoc to the lands of Sword Coast. One of these children must rise above the rest and claim their father's legacy. This inheritor will shape the history of the Sword Coast for centuries to come. Huh. Interesting. Another letter. The spawn of the Lord of Murder are fated to come into their inheritance through bloodshed and misery. It is the hope of their father that only one shall remain alive to inherit his legacy. I foresee that the children of Baal shall kill each other in a bloody massacre. Huh. I think I've done. Yeah, I've read this History of the Moon Sea. We're just gonna really quickly check out these bookcases in the rooms, and then I promise we are going to get on to, yeah. I'm pretty sure I've read Sembia. I really should just make a checklist of books I've read. Also, Rel, please pass your scrolls to Nira to be cataloged in the nearest book. Oh, wow, my scroll case is actually full. The Drow rule of Shadowdale lasted until early 900s Dale Reckoning, when the increased human population in the area brought the Dark Elves into conflict with their now more numerous neighbors. The humans were the Dalesmen, who a millennium earlier had crossed the Dragon Reach and made peace with the Elves of Mithranor, settling at the borders of the Great Woods that was the Elven home. The Drow soon found themselves under continual attack. And most of those who held overground settlements retreated back below. The last powerful Drow leader was Asmer, the Marshal of the Twisted Tower in its last Drow-held days. Asmer oversaw the last retreat of the Drow holdings in the face of a human uprising, and held the citadel against a year-long siege. With supplies and slaves brought up from the Underdark directly into the tower, the Drow could have conceivably held out forever. However, a human slave, family histories in the Dales indicate a number of possible individuals, poisoned the well in the tower, and the citadel was easily overrun. Asmer's body was not found among the dead, leading some people to believe he escaped back into the depths to rejoin his people. Noting that the fact that he would have had to explain to his matriarch how he lost Shadowdale, it is much more likely that, should Asmer have survived, he went into voluntary exile, hiding from both human and Drow. Given that this occurred only 400 years ago, it is certainly possible that Asmer still lives. Yeah, from what I know of Drow, yeah. And a Nox scroll. Okay. We will finally go upstairs.
Our library is a man's harem of knowledge.
Hello, Rel. It is good to see you here once again. A pity you could not have returned during a more restful time. Oh, what's going on to cause you such stress? Oh, it's nothing, I'm sure. It's just that, well, things seem a little strange around here. Those decidedly unmerchant-like merchants for one, and some of our own monks are acting odd as well. One fellow in particular. And who would that be? Well, there's this fellow named Corvaris. I assume he is a visiting sage of some sort, but he seems more interested in our guests than the tomes. He makes me nervous. I think he's had the same effect on others as well. Young Sheestall's been out of sorts for days now. He's not as thick-skinned as I. You remember how nervous he used to be? He's quite the opposite now. Seems like a totally different person. I worry about him. I should go. It's been nice speaking with you.
I've got this.
Given what we went through in Durlag's tower.
You need something, stranger?
I thought I might find you somewhere around here. Allow me to introduce myself. Please do. My name is Corvaris. I used to work with your father running messages to his Harper friends in Waterdeep. Before he passed on, he entrusted this ring to me and asked that I give it to you should evil ever befall him. Will you take it? And what evil You were there. You saw it all. A woman, an armored figure, 2 ogres wielding clubs, and 2 archers. But Gorian's petty magic was of little use against them, was it not? And you fled with your tail between your legs, hiding amidst the trees until dawn broke. And now it comes full circle, doesn't it? The Iron Throne so close that you can almost touch them and wreak your revenge for that night. You're right. I was there. Myself, my father, and 6 others who tried to kill us. Where were you, if you know so much? If you be so void of trust, I am surprised that you have made it this far. It is of little matter. Go seek your vengeance or your doom at the hand of the Iron Throne. I wash my hands of it. I don't know, I don't trust him.
The Lord of Murder shall perish, but in his doom he shall spawn a score of mortal progeny. Chaos will be sown from their passage, so saith the wise Alondo.
Well, you look distressed. What is it, child? I'm just finding it hot in here. Hot? This keep suffers from as many chilled drafts as it always has. You look feverish, Rel. Go see one of the priests that they may tend to it. In truth, my brow sweats more from fear than from fever. There's something wrong within these halls, and I fear I need your help. You are right. I have felt it too. Pray tell me how this aging frame can help you. As Chanter, you know the history of this keep better than any other. I have grown up here, I have played within its walls, but there were many places I was never allowed to go. I am older now, and I will go where I must, but please, are there any places in this keep of which I was never told? What right have you to ask that, child? I'm not a child anymore. This entire keep is in danger, even its most secret and sacred spaces. Please, Chanter, Gorion would have it so. I am growing old, and the young are not so young anymore, nor the carefree so carefree. Alondro the Seer, the one who founded this fortress of knowledge, and whose prophecies I chant each day, he is entombed deep in the bowels of this place. I tell you this, Rel, because you are right. It is time you knew. But I beg of you, In Gorian's name, do not venture into those trapped and warded halls unless some higher power than myself bids you go. Your stepfather would never forgive me for your loss. I must go now, child. Rel, it is time to chant the seer's prophecies, as I always have. Well, okay then. I really need to start using the whole piles of scrolls I have, truthfully.
Good on you if you save the day.
At the moment, I'm just doing a quick pass for scrolls at this point. Or any more of those letters. Those letters would be nice to find. Like, I would have no problem at all if I found more of these letters, which I am actually going to dump on the ground because I have already read them. And what I might do, actually thinking on this, I might, I'm gonna make a quick save here, or I'm gonna make a hard save, actually. Once the game makes up its mind to allow me to do so, of course. There we go. And I'm probably going to come back into here in between recordings and see what other lore there is. But for now, we're going to go upstairs.
I've got this.
My dear sir, you must realize that it is manners that make the gentleman, so would you kindly prove you are one by leaving? Realtar, ye thrice-cursed son of a mangy cur! Yes, Lick, I hardly expected to see you of all people. My old friend did... Friend my arse! What friend locks up and tortures another? What friend deals in slavery and theft? I don't think I know what you're talking about. You'll pay dearly for your I'm gonna look up a definition right now. Because, yeah. What does this word mean? I mean, I can from context clues, but... Perfidy. Perfidy. Deceitfulness. You'll pay for your perfidy in red blood, Realtar. Yes, Lick? This isn't the way in Candlekeep. I Ah, you're right, of course. Violence solves only the simplest problems. You must think your way through the tough ones. Thank you, Rel. Thank you for stopping me. Which is hilarious, because Rel usually insists on simple solutions to complicated problems, usually involving the application of fists to the opposite party. I'll be seeing you, friend. Good riddance. Wow, you a jerk. Let's talk with everyone else.
Out of my way, lest you want a rib roasting.
What do you think you're doing here, you cork-brained louse? Get out of here or I'll get me boys to rib roast you, but good.
The Iron Throne demands much, perhaps more than the Knights of the Shield can give.
If you're just about done poking about in this private room, please don't hesitate to get the bloody hell out. You talk pretty big. I go where I wish. Are you threatening me? Of all the nerve. Measure the odds, fool, and leave while you're still able. Wow. You're kind of a jerk. Let's push our luck.
We are being spied upon.
Not to insult your demeanor on our first meeting, but I've met more considerate creatures in the darkest of dungeons. You'd best had a good explanation for this intrusion. We were assured that these rooms were private. I'll leave. I guess more up.
You want it? You got it.
Excuse me, but I'm late for my classes.
Leave me be, stranger. I've work to do. Don't you recognize me? It's Rel. Certainly, Rel. I did not recognize your face. My apologies. I trust your journeys have been comfortable. The Cloakwood can be cold this time of year. If you will excuse me, I should go. How did you know I'd gone to the Cloakwood? I have relatives in the region. Yes, they must have seen you and sent to know your progress. How would they know who I was? You would do well to leave me be. I tire of this game. Take your questions and go away, monkey. Oh no. I have many more questions to ask. For starters, who are you really? I am your death, foolish meat. You're a doppelganger.
What do you need?
You need something?
Yeah. You're gonna do more magic missile.
We're all doomed.
We are not going to cast Fireball.
What are you need?
Oh, perhaps we'll survive longer than I had originally thought.
Tell me. Don't worry about me.
This is bad. Because the thing I've learned is where, like, there's one doppelganger, there's often more. Oh, Emma win.
Give it to me straight. Don't worry about me.
Yeah, like... I don't know, just running into one doppelganger here is making me uneasy enough. I get the feeling we're going to run into a bunch more. And I don't like that.
What do you need?
Oops.
You want it? You got it. Tell me.
Okay, readers, that's fine. We're gonna go up
Our
again.
library is a man's harem of knowledge.
Rel, good to see you. I trust you are well? As well as can be expected. How have you been? Oh, I pine for the days when you and Gorion still called Candlekeep home. You brought a bit of energy to these walls. I shall have to speak with you later at length, but for now you must rest. Gorion's old room is the third on the south corridor, just as it was. I think there are a few things for you there as well. We shall see you later. Third room
Don't worry about me.
on the south. What direction are we counting third from? Because this is the south corridor. I'm going to guess it's this one because it has a different kind of chest. Or not. I could also just look in all the chests until I find what looks like a pile of items. Like, that is always an option. Is it this one? Is it here? As I wait for the pathfinding to figure it out. Ah, a letter. Hello, Rel. If you are reading this, then it means I have met an untimely death. I would tell you not to grieve for me, but I feel much better at thinking that you would. There are things...
Perhaps we'll survive longer than I had originally thought.
Shut up, Sam. There are things I must tell you in this letter that I might have told you before. However, if my death came too soon, then I would have never been given the chance. First off, I am not your biological father, for that distinction lies with an entity known as Baal. The Baal I speak of is the one you know as a divinity. In a crisis known as the Time of Troubles, when the gods walked Faerun, Baal was also forced into a mortal shell. He was somehow forewarned of the death that awaited him during this time. For reasons unknown to me, he sought out women of every race and forced himself upon them. Your mother was one of those women, and as you know, she died in childbirth. I had been her friend and on occasion, lover. I felt obligated to raise you as my own. I have always thought of you as my child, and I hope you still think of me as your father. You are a special child. The blood of gods runs through your veins. If you make use of our extensive library, you will find that our founder, Alondo, has many prophecies concerning the coming of the spawn of Baal. There are many who will want to use you for their own purposes. One, a man who calls himself Savarok, is the worst danger. He has studied here at Candlekeep and thus knows a great deal about your history and who you are. Gorion. Oh! I think that's a good note to leave off for the day, don't you? Next time, I guess we go more up. I have a bad feeling about all of this. Take care of yourselves, alright?